Hello everyone, my name's Nathan, and I have been putting in a significant number of hours into the Battlefield 1 beta ever since it came out, and I've been noticing some things that I really like, and some things I feel could definitely use some improvement. So today I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on the beta, and what could maybe be changed in the future to make the full release of Battlefield 1 a better game. Now I'm not going to be talking about bugs that are clearly just beta issues, such as spawning without a gun, because it's very unlikely they'll still be there in the final game. So let's kick things off with something that I feel is undeniably positive, the graphics. This game just looks incredible. Player models look realistic, explosions have real impact, and the sand. I mean, I could just lay prone and look at this sand for hours. Honestly though, I'm not all that surprised by the superb graphical quality. After all, BF1 is coming from DICE, who have a history of making games that look just great. I mean, just take a look at Star Wars Battlefront, which, despite all its gameplay and depth disappointments, was still one of the best looking games I've ever played. Now, with Battlefield 1, you can definitely notice some of that Battlefront polish, even if everything has to be a bit grittier thanks to the World War I theme. The only things I can really think to criticise about the graphics on Battlefield 1 are legacy issues that have been in previous Battlefield games, such as after a building's been destroyed, occasionally some of the masonry just stays floating in the air. And while that is slightly immersion breaking, to be honest, I'm clutching at straws for a criticism here on the graphics, and that's probably more of a physics engine issue than a problem with graphical capability. So having said that the graphics of the game are almost without fault, let's move on and talk about the gameplay, where I start to have a few complaints. It should be said initially though that a lot of the basics have definitely been done right, such as the guns, which have a nice impression of recoil and feel incredibly varied depending on which gun you pick. I'm also going to go slightly against a lot of people's opinions and say that I actually enjoy the added focus on playing the objective in BF1. If you didn't know, Battlefield 1 gives way more points than past Battlefield games for capturing objectives, and that means you can easily finish top of the leaderboard even if you have a negative KD. Now for me that means that you have to focus on doing the things that can win the game for your team, rather than just focusing on getting kills, and I really like that. I do think there needs to be more points for defending an objective though, because at the moment it only makes sense to attack enemy points rather than holding what you've got. I also think that the scoring system needs to have a ticket bleed come in, which includes killing enemies even if you don't get as many points relative to PTFOing. I'm also delighted with a true return to form for destructibility. Gone are the big scale Levolution events from Battlefield 4, for the most part at least, and in comes the ability to smash through almost any building to get at those squishy little soldiers hiding inside. All that being said though, I do have some fairly major complaints. Firstly, vehicles in my opinion are just too strong. Well, it's not even necessarily an issue of them being too strong, but of the things that used to take them out being nerfed or taken out of the game altogether. When you look back at Battlefield 4, there are so many ways to take out a tank or jeep or whatever your enemy's in. You've got the standard RPG, or the SMOR, or the lock-on javelin, or the wire-controlled straw, or maybe you want to use mines, or slams, or C4, and you get the point. In Battlefield 1 though, there's a nerfed version of C4 that doesn't stick, a big grenade that doesn't seem all that powerful, and actually a pretty damn decent anti-tank gun. Unfortunately though, that gun isn't unlocked from the start of the game, and thanks to the new leveling system where you level not just your character, but also your class, it actually takes a while to get. And we'll cycle back to that leveling system a bit later because I've got a few more things to say about it. Continuing with gameplay issues for now though, why are there no revive indicators when you're playing as a medic anymore? In previous Battlefield games, if you were running with a defibrillator, you could see a symbol above players who you could bring back to life, and that made it much more likely that you'd get a res. In BF1 though, I think I've only been resed maybe twice, ever. Now bringing back teammates was one of the most helpful actions you could do for your team in past Battlefield games, but now it's basically gone and I just don't know why. Spawns are also only okay about 50% of the time. I mean, this should never happen. Horse hitboxes are too big, and finally please tone down the sandstorm. You try playing combat with this view. Yeah. Well, it feels good to get all that off my chest. But of course there's still more to talk about here. Next is onto the map that is currently available. Sinai Desert. Now, this map is huge. Well, sort of. Despite the massive size of the map, there's a lot of dead space, and if you're an infantry player, you're probably gonna want to stick mainly around the C and D flags. I mean, what is this space for? There's nothing in it, and I'd have thought with the new focus on playing the objective, DICE would never actually want players to go out in this area because they wouldn't be doing anything for the team. Now, I could just be missing something here, and there might be an obvious purpose for that area, so if there is, please let me know down in the comments. Another big issue I have with the map is the E flag. It's freaking miles away from anything else, and unless you have a vehicle, there's almost no good reason to go out there. Honestly, I'd love to see this point just moved up a little bit closer to the other flags, so that we could see some more actual fights over this point, rather than one team getting it at the start of the game, and often they just hold it for the rest of the game. On the whole then, Sinai Desert certainly isn't anywhere near up there with my favourite Battlefield maps, but it is one that shows off all aspects of a Battlefield game. It has a few areas where infantry combat can really happen, it has the areas where vehicles dominate, and there are places for both long and short range combat. So possibly not one of the best maps, but a good showcase of what Battlefield is. Now, I said earlier that I'd cycle back to the leveling system, so here it goes. The new system whereby you level up your character and your class and then still have to buy the new guns or equipment that you want is way too much in my opinion. One leveling system is more than enough, and when choosing an unlock system, it should be either locked behind a level wall or locked behind an in-game currency, not both. If you earn enough war bonds, you should be able to get whatever you want, because otherwise there's no point in them being in the game, and the system that's currently in place just seems to me to be there to make the progression system even longer without any real benefit. One final change I want to mention before the end of the video is that the timer has got to go, or at least be lengthened significantly. I'm pretty sure I've never actually seen a match end through one team getting enough points to win, and that's because every game ends long before the score limit is reached because the timer just runs out. And it feels kind of cheap to lose to a timer when your team has just started to turn the tide and make it look like you might come back into this game. Now, I know I've been kind of negative in places here, but overall though, I've certainly been enjoying my time playing Battlefield 1, and I'm looking forward to the full launch of the game. All of the criticisms I've listed in this video shouldn't be taken as a condemnation of the game, but instead as ways that I think that a good game could be made even better. Please don't get me wrong in this video, in its current state, I would totally buy and play Battlefield 1, so long as there's enough content to justify its price tag. So that's about it for today. If you enjoyed the video, I'd be very appreciative of a like down below. Let me know what you think of the Battlefield 1 beta in the comments, and subscribe for more like this if you haven't already. Anyway, I've been Nathan, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.